There are a few things that really stand out to me with this entire Luka Dallas Mavericks trade after hearing Nico Harrison address the media officially to talk about the trade. He used a few words that are kind of triggering when you hear about a superstar. One, he talked about culture. He talked about the future and the duration of what he sees as the future. He talked about how he did not really discuss this at all with Jason Kidd and that he feels like he knows what type of player and archetype that Jason Kidd is wanting from previous discussions that they had. There are a lot of things that Nico Harrison said that either one makes people believe that this is a really smart trade, or two, they look at it and say, I think you probably should have kept a lot of these details to yourself. Two things that very much stand out to me is that I believe the Dallas Mavericks organization may be underestimating how hard it is to get back to an NBA Finals. I truly believe they are, because the fact that you got to the NBA Finals last year how you did, and a lot of us did not expect that out of the Mavericks, even with some of the moves that they did make towards the end of the season. We were like, I don't know if this team is equipped for it just yet. And to make the run they did when they kind of had no business being in there to begin with, and to sit there and almost feel as though it is now a guarantee when you just traded one of the big reasons why you got there, it kind of seems very contradictory. It seems as though they are underestimating. Now, I was one person that really credited a lot of the success that the Mavericks were having last season to Nico Harrison making trades and making the right pieces move, getting Kyrie, getting PJ Washington. We all sat there and said, man, he made the right moves. But now this seems a little bit different. Second thing that is abundantly clear in this, and also so devastatingly shocking, is that Nico Harrison in the Dallas Mavericks front office undervalue Luka. It seems as though this season they have sat there and said he is not worth the time, the effort, or the money. That is essentially what they are saying. It is a reason Nico Harrison explains this whole thing and says, well, I kept it close to the chest with me and Rob Pelinka. It's a reason why he said, I didn't talk to Jason Kidd about this. Because you know that if you were to sit there and really start saying this to everyone in the organization that deals with Luka on a daily, especially on the basketball court, everyone would have talked you out of it. But you didn't want anyone to talk you out of this because you understand how kind of like, this does sound crazy. I'm trading a top 3 player in the NBA, a guy that just got me to the finals. But when you use words such as, we need guys who fit our culture, we're thinking about the future for 3 to 4 years, I'm not thinking 10 years down the line, that's where you kind of sit there and say, now, wait a minute. This guy was supposed to be that guy. He was supposed to be the next Dirk. He was supposed to have a statue outside the arena. How all of a sudden do you sit there and say, I don't think he's the guy that we want? Another thing that you can note in the entire press conference that Nico Harrison had, how much he values Anthony Davis. And this is not a conversation of us not valuing Anthony Davis. I know a lot of people think that, like, why are we disrespecting AD? We're not disrespecting AD whatsoever. We all understand how great AD is. This is more a conversation of how shocking it is to give up on a mega superstar like Luka, like the Dallas Mavericks did. It is the way that they went about it. You only could give up an AD if you were getting a Luka in return. That's how much value Anthony Davis is. But when you hear Nico Harrison say we only contacted the Lakers, you also hear about the relationship that he has with AD. This was a personal situation, and it makes you wonder what else was happening behind the scenes. Nico Harrison's final words in the press conference, he said, the future to me is 3 to 4 years from now. The future 10 years from now, they'll probably bury me and Jason Kidd by then, or we'll bury ourselves. That is a very interesting quote to have at the end of a press conference, because that tells me that maybe you weren't looking at the organization's entire future in its totality. To sit there and say the future to you is only 3 to 4 years from now, sure, in technicalities, yes, that is the future, but to sit there and say, well, 10 years from now, we might not even be here, is a little appalling to hear. And if you're a fan, I can understand you hearing that and say, well, man, this is a slap in our face. We sat there and we love Luka. Dallas loves Luka. We were cheering for him, for this team that you constructed around him. And now you're going away from this. The other implication in this is that Nico Harrison and Rob Pelinka made a friendly deal. And when I say that, I say put yourself in your shoes when you pay for something with your friend and your friend's like, hey, let me give you half for that. And you're like, no, you're good. I got it. And the friend's like, no, let me give you something. And something that you possibly paid $50 for, you sit there and you say, all right, just give me like 5, give me 10, just give me a little something. That is the deal that Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison made in this. When you look at those trade details, you kind of sit there and say, this is all either one of you wanted out of this entire trade, and especially who you're trading each other for. When you look at the details of this deal between the Lakers and the Dallas Mavericks, you really truly see that this was a deal made amongst friends. Neither one got everything that they could have. You tell me I'm giving up Luka, and yes, I'm getting AD in return. That's all worth it. But I'm asking for at least 2 first-round picks, and I'm most likely going to ask for Vando. If I'm making a defensive-minded trade, as Nico Harrison keeps uttering, I'm not getting Max Christie. Give me Vando. Give me 2 of those first-round picks. Give me AD. Here's Luka. Now, on the flip side, I'm looking at the Lakers saying, well, how did you not also try to get more size if what you're giving up is ultimately all the size you have? Yes, you're giving me Luka, but hey, I want Gafford too then. And give me Maxi Kleber. And give me Markieff Morris then. Both of them kind of left some things on the table, which really shows to you that they were truly ready to part ways with both of their superstars. Craziest thing about this entire trade and why the whole entire league is now flipped on its side and why I believe Commissioner Silver is for sure not going to be stepping in to stop this is because it actually may solve the one problem that the NBA has been complaining about for continuous years now. One, that superstars are not available as much as they should be during the regular season and not giving max effort in the regular season. It's a reason why they came up with the NBA Cup, to have more aggressive basketball in the beginning of the season. But this is what this does around the league. It makes every other superstar look at themselves and say, if Luka got touched and he just got to the finals, that means I could get touched. That's what this does around the league. It sends a shock. It changes the power dynamic amongst a lot of teams because all these superstars that are in the driver's seats of their organizations, making all this money, also sitting out, maybe not always healthy, not being available, that haven't even reached an NBA Finals, are now sitting there saying, maybe I can't be as comfy as I once was. Everybody is sitting up straight when you make a deal like this. When you say a player like Luka that we all thought is an untouchable, he would never be in trade talks, not right now, and is now gone, and then you hear what Nico Harrison is saying, I'm sure it makes every superstar around the league say, I'm not safe then. The reason this trade could have some domino effects because I'm certain that there are a lot of GMs now around the league that may be in the same situation with superstars that are not available, and they look at it and say, well, I feel like our superstar is in the same caliber and tier as Luka, and they just traded him away, and our superstar hasn't even got us to an NBA Finals. Should we be thinking about the same thing now? Those conversations start to happen when you start looking at everything because it tips the scale. Because everyone's saying the same thing. How could you trade a Luka? I get you wanting to get Anthony Davis, but how do you give away Luka, especially for what you gave him up for? That makes a different type of conversation around the league then, because everyone starts looking and saying, well, I'm keeping my superstar and we're not even seeing no success. He didn't even try to get me to no finals on one leg. We're having different conversations now. This changes so much around the league, even if we realize it or not.